Hey everyone, welcome to the program, WRSA Radio. I am your host, Grenadier1. As always, I hope you're having a good week. It's been a good one for me. Nothing too crazy going on, and something very cool, actually. Tuesday evening, I had the opportunity to listen to a live stream with two of my favorite nonfiction writers, Walter Bosley and Joseph Farrell. Very honestly, a mind-blowing conversation. The content and the interaction with the chat, very cool. It was fascinating, and I urge you to go over and listen to that on Walter Bosley's YouTube channel. It's too much for me to get into today, as it's just a complete tangent from what's been going on this week, and what I would need multiple episodes to get people up to speed on some of that stuff. And I do plan on doing some shows on the topics in the near future once I get back from vacation in the next few weeks. So I'll leave that to those shows to explore, because it's a mass of fertile ground that we can get into, just as a distraction from the normal nonsense that's going on. Which brings us to this week, the topic of the week. After a very long delay, I think it's been 4 years. At any rate, we finally got the release of the report from Special Counsel John Durham, the vaunted Durham report. The report says everything that we knew it was going to say. In all honesty, it was really a waste, but it says that without a doubt, that at the very top of the Obama administration, there was awareness and approval of the plan that was put together by the Hillary Clinton campaign to construct and release a narrative that Donald Trump was connected and compromised by Russian intelligence. This plan was known, it was approved, and it was supported by the FBI, and all the way to the top, Obama himself. It was the basis for the subsequent Operation Crossfire Hurricane, or whatever they called it, the infiltration of the Trump campaign and the Trump White House. And I use the term infiltration because this was not an investigation. It was surveillance and counter-intel operations being conducted by the FBI against the sitting president of the United States. Maybe not counter-intel operations as much as sabotage operations, and I want to repeat that. This was spying by the FBI on the sitting president of the United States. Now, this should be the most monumental revelation in the history of the country, surpassed only by the revelation that the intelligence community assassinated JFK. It should be world-shifting stuff here, paradigm shifting. And it's not. Alas, we are too distracted by beer cans and truck paint jobs and the ongoing war on white people by the Justice Department. And honestly, I'm disgusted by this whole thing, and not because of the reprehensible behavior of the agencies involved and the media that enables them. Not because of that, because they're doing what is in their nature. They are vile bottom feeders, and they're doing what vile bottom feeders do. It's to be expected. I'm more disgusted by the obliviousness of the population and the leadership. This, pretend outrage that members of the legislature display, the breathless coverage by the right-wing media. That's all that it amounts to. It's being mined for political fundraising and ratings. And this should be something that brings down the Biden administration. The press as a whole should be pushing this. Congress should be exercising its authority and demanding oversight, accountability. There should be impeachments, there should be prosecutions, there should be jail sentences, and there will be none of that. Nothing will change. Nothing will really come from this. And that's what disgusts me. There will likely be some pointless, useless hearings in Congress, but no one will ever see the inside of a courtroom from this. How many times have we seen that? I'm really starting to wonder, what power does Congress actually have? What is the point of congressional hearings when wrongdoing is identified time after time after time in these hearings? People come to these hearings, they testify, they're on oath, they say these things. This is what happened. And then they are proven to be false. They are lying. That is not what happened. And nothing happens. No one is prosecuted. Not even for the fact that you lied under oath to Congress. Nobody faces any prosecution from that. It's just ridiculous. No one will be perp walked. No one will even be publicly shamed. Nothing. It's the great humiliation. And I'm coining that term here to encompass the full complex of the ongoing efforts to crush trad America. And every aspect of what we are facing is shaped by this relentless, open humiliation of our people and our culture and our way of life. Every point of our lives is being assaulted by these humiliations. We are being broken and demoralized, and this is possibly going to be the greatest manifestations of this. And again, I put this just behind the Kennedy assassination. This outrageous criminal conspiracy at the top of the prior administration will go unpunished and justified because the media have so convinced the leftist commies that the right is not only wrong, but that we are evil and must be destroyed. They, feel complete justification and moral obligation to break the law. They have to do this to prevent anything that threatens their agenda and their goals. And to them, the ends justify the means. Now, you could take the position that, this is horrible and that we would never do something like this. And that, that's understandable. It's an admirable position to take. And we could take the course that those in power can't use the system to retain power. Again, very admirable. That's the way it should be. The problem with this idea, which is, again, morally right and how everyone should be conducting themselves, the problem is that when one side decides that it no longer will follow the rules can't constrain them. The rules then serve to only constrain the ones who will follow them. If you continue to follow the rules, then you are at a distinct disadvantage to those who are unbounded by them. And, paradoxically, it requires breaking the rule to restore the rule. You have to break the law to restore the law in a very weird sense of it. And that leads me to what I really wanted to kind of get into today, because I said this report will likely result in nothing, and you're going to hear about this only from the aspect of it being kind of window dressing from the mainstream media and even the alternative media for a while now. And I can't really add much to that coverage that they're going to put out there that I haven't already commented on so far today. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different path here. I want to discuss what should be done. How more of the how than the why or whatnot like that. We know what why, right? I can't get into this really deeply, but I want to hit the high points because I want you all to be thinking about this. It's often said that if you complain about things that leadership has done and you don't have an alternative plan, then you're just griping and moaning. You're bitching and whining, and it's really pointless. It's worthless. So if we're going to be critical of the establishment about how it should handle this situation, then we should have a plan on how to accomplish what we're complaining about. Long way of saying, how do we fix this? Let us suppose that tomorrow a legal ruling, let's say this went up to the Supreme Court, whatever, overnight, magic that this happens. Legal ruling comes out, the current president and vice president are removed from power, and they are replaced by someone other than Kevin McCarthy, okay? Let's suppose that someone like, and I'm just pulling a name out here, Rand Paul, for example, is put into office of the president. And that's just for the sake of this discussion. Not that I think Rand Paul would be the greatest president or anything like that. He'd probably be a lot better than most of the other people that we have out there. But you can pick any leader figure that you want that is out there in some circle. That's not really the point. So let's move on there. But what does this new president do? President X. What does new President X do to fix the problems that we are facing? A completely out of control executive branch. Agencies and bureaus and departments that do whatever they want without any control whatsoever exercised over them, not only by the executive branch, but by Congress. And really the only thing that seems to sort of hinder them and rein them in is judicial constraint. But at any rate, what do you do to stop this? Even if this new president just comes in and installs his own directors and leaders into the head positions of these agencies, what do they do? How do they fix these things? Just completely disbanding these agencies is kind of the, pull the Band-Aid off response. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but let's look at that for a second. If the new, let's look for an alternative view of it, not the pull the Band-Aid off response, but a more practical or easy, well, not even an easy route, but the political way to fix this. If the new heads of these agencies were to come on board and their first act of office was to disband the entire agency, how do you think that would work? The employees will revolt. Okay, they will sue the government and tie this up in court for years. And not only that, as long as the FBI and the intel agencies are around, they are not only going to oppose the president and his people, they are literally a threat to them. They have the capability and they have the motivation to threaten the very life of those involved. Just looking at the FBI, they would need to be prevented from accessing their networks, their computer networks. If they have access, then they can delete evidence. They can conceal and cover up their crimes. So you would need a third party that could shut out the employees and then mass copy everything that is on their network to preserve it for evidence. And then they could be allowed back into, to the office to gain the network again, which, they would be doing while they fought this in court. Let's be real here. Now rinse and repeat that for every intel agency that we're getting rid of as well. Okay, I think you start to understand the monumental task that this is going to be, even if you were to just disband these departments. And the other significant problem we have is that to hold them all accountable, we have to go through a criminal process. Well, that's a problem when the DOJ is one of the organizations that has to be wiped clean. Let's start and look at that for a minute. We've come to power. We've installed new acting heads of these departments, and they, as their first order, have disbanded every single one of them. Close the doors, lock them up, allow only new security contractors to maintain the buildings and maintenance staff to make sure the pipes don't freeze and the water don't break and all that kind of stuff. They're the only ones allowed in the office other than an independent third-party transition team. Now, the next step is to replace the DOJ and its investigation arm. And so how do we do that? Maybe you could expand the U.S. Marshal Service to assist in that effort. But you still need legal minds and all the other staff to handle the cases. So where are you going to get them? Are you thinking that you put an ad out on Indeed or some other job site and replace the people that way? Who are you going to get as candidates? Well, for one, you're going to get a lot of lawyers who are educated in left-wing law schools, communist law schools. And that really doesn't fix the issue. Where I'm going here is that we can't trust the potential replacements that we would get for any of these departments, at least in the initial phases of this. And now, again, rinse and repeat this for every single department. So even if you were not to disband these departments, if you were to come in and say, well, I'm going to fire a bunch of people and replace them, the same thing applies. You're going to replace them with more lawyers or more agents for the FBI. Where are you going to get them? Well, you want somebody with experience. Well, who's going to get interviewed for that? Police officers or detectives from local cities. Well, how broken are they? Who knows? We don't know. The bottom line is that this country is broken and has been broken at its most basic level for a long time. And we no longer have the building blocks to construct government organizations that can be trusted to police themselves and maintain objectivity. In fact, I think that is the basis for many of our core problems. We no longer even teach objectivity. We no longer instill a sense of objectivity in young people, a sense of ethics in young people. Not only that, but we have far too many people in this country, and more coming every day, who are intellectually incapable of understanding objectivity and ethics. We have for so long drove into the minds of young people that they can't be silent. They can't be ambivalent or divorced from a political or social position. Oh, you've got to take a side. You must stand up and be active and be an activist because reasons. Oh, well, this person might be a victim or whatever. And the reason is that when you are compelled to take a side, it becomes a default mode of mental operation. You don't first stop and think about how you would feel if you were in either of the positions of the different sides of an argument or a conflict. You just immediately side with one side, and it's usually the side that has the most emotional impact. That heartwarming or heart-tugging, intensifies, and you leap to side with the ones who most resemble victims. And now I think you understand the whole drive for victimization and group victimhood. This is all connected and part of that commie march through the institutions. The corruption has gone so deep that the people themselves are broken. So what does it all mean? It means that we will likely have two pathways. We'll either fall into a manner of military tribunals, maybe, with a very small and honestly overworked group of people who can be trusted. And that's going to result in a lot of very heavy-handed justice being enacted. I don't really like the implications there. I have visions of the Cheka and other organizations like that just signing off on mass execution and things like that. It doesn't make me feel right. And that's likely going to lead to armed conflict anyway, even if we manage to get to that point through political, legal, manifestation. It's the act of fixing the government would destroy it, would devolve it into an armed conflict. Or we will have to accept that these functions of these agencies are going away. They can't be replaced, at least for a long time, until we have, rebuilt the basic raw mental horsepower to do the job without allowing personal agenda to creep in. I think that's the mode of operation for a high-functioning society, and we don't have that, and it's going to be a long journey before we can rebuild that. Now, I don't say these things to discourage you because, I could be wrong here. Maybe I'm being too cynical, or maybe I'm not being cynical enough, and maybe there are plenty of people left in our country who can be these building blocks of government. Maybe it's the old people who might have to enter back into the workforce to kind of fill these roles. I don't know. I don't know. That's why I wanted to talk about this today, to put these thoughts into your mind so you will be thinking about them. And of course, that's assuming that we manage somehow to, achieve this or reach this place in a political fashion, in a system. And I've talked long about how you can't fix the system from within the system. This is just a verbalization or vocalization of why that is so difficult. But it's happened. It's happened in the past and in other countries. So I don't think it's necessarily impossible, and it's certainly not going to be bloodless. But maybe it's something that we can achieve. But one thing that I do know is that successful revolutions or replacement forces, even the velvet glove type, color revolutions, whatever, which we know those are manufactured by the intel agencies. But even these sort of bloodless revolutions, they have something in common, and at least the successful ones do. And that's prior to anything really kicking off and really getting going in these civil conflicts, they have a shadow government already in place and identified that can quickly fill these roles and these positions. So maybe if we are thinking about this now, we can kind of get ahead of the problem. We can already have vetted and identified people that can step in to maintain some of the functionality that we have become accustomed to. There are some basic functions of federal government that are going to have to be in place. As much as I despise the FBI right now and believe that organization needs to be destroyed, you do need a federal level law enforcement or law investigation arm, and so that role will have to be filled by somebody. Maybe we can get those people identified ahead of time, and that goes for the DOJ as well. Maybe, I don't know, Rekieta Law can become the new Attorney General. I don't know. So having those people in place ahead of time gets you ahead of these problems that can arise. So anyway, that's all I have time for this week. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab and the Mothership, and I will see you on the next episode.